Chapter 3, Death and Life. I've experienced death in so many ways in my life, I can't even begin to count them. Death of an illusion, death of a marriage, death of a business, death of an addiction, and the rebirth that followed. We can choose to stay in the cage of death, or we can choose a different perspective and use the compost for new growth. When I was learning from Miss B, I was in high school and I wasn't interested in the park behind her house for any other reason than to sneak down with friends to drink 40-ounce beers, smoke joints, and stay later than closing time. Adventure to us was running away from park rangers after dark, who were mad at us for not putting out our fires and behaving badly, as they should have been. We were in rebellion. From 14 years old on, drugs and alcohol seeped into my life, and the clarity and connection to the things she taught me got foggy. Until I turned 24, I was clouded by substance use and abuse, ballooning into a full-blown addiction. I moved far away from the things she tried to teach me in those years, on the dark side of the world where I lost control and became powerless. Sometimes I think she just knew. She just knew that I was on this path and she needed to get to me before I almost drank myself to death, too. See, her death shaped me and gave me a boundary of sorts in my using, and she taught me a phrase that never left me. We aren't powerless, but we give our power away. I needed that when I entered a drug treatment program for the third time before I turned 21, and the first thing we talked about was powerlessness. What she told me reminded that I had it in me. I just forgot or moved away from it or had given it away. I'd thrown away the key to the cage. And I had another knowing. I could take my power back. I could move myself out of the fearful life I was living, and I could turn another way. I could walk through a process of taking a real hard look at myself with a bird's eye view, but that was just one perspective. And if I stayed there, I stayed spinning in the past, which is depression. I could also shift my perspective and come down from that view and find the nest, the center of sorts. I could adopt a new perspective looking at the tree from beside it, not looking down on it. When this realization happened, everything changed, for me and for those who were called to teach with me. The obit. I'd just returned from a backpacking trip to Gujarat, India. I went to my parents' coffee shop, Jungle Java, and opened the daily paper, the Calgary Sun. Flipping through, likely looking for the horoscopes, I landed on the obituaries page. And there she was. A picture of her shining soul and her dog on her lap. Miss Baxter was dead. I called 2 friends from high school who aligned with her teachings, Mitch and Ryan, and the 3 of us went to her funeral. They were musicians who connected to an energy and source through music, something I couldn't understand, but she could. Each of us had our quirks. Mitch was getting into modeling and tattoos, and Ryan worked with his family, renovating and painting houses. I saved the Celebration of Life pamphlet from her funeral. It has a picture of her on the front, the only a picture of her I have that's not the obituary. I have it pinned up in my kitchen from the last 2 years so she can oversee her old place and whisper words of wisdom to me from the other side. On the back of this is a poem, some words she left for me to ponder and really feel into what is on the other side. What is death? Where do you go? Which faith is right? Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I've only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you, and the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we still are. Call me by the old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference in your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without an effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute and unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible negligible accident? Negligible. Life means all it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is an absolute and unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I'm out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. Nothing is hurt, nothing is lost. One brief moment and all will be as it was before. How shall we laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again? Henry Scott Holland. It was hereafter that I started to connect with her on a soul level. While she was gone, we were the same. Our conversations were still being had. Her guidance was still around me. So I continued to keep talking to her. And 20 years later, these are the words that have come to me in this reflection of how she keeps showing up for me, guiding me, teaching me, and writing with me. Death. Nothing in the forest lives without the forest dying. A kind of necessary death. A kind that is new life. A kind that is regenerative. A kind that is helpful to keep those here well. Death is the absolute heart and center to everything, because we're comfortable with living, and we're comfortable with death being this thing over here that we don't know about, but think we don't need to know about. It's easy to turn your back to it. But on this notion of it being a pendulum between love and fear, life and death, we find death and fear at the same place. The death is death of a dream, death of an idea, death of a way of thinking, death of an expectation, or death of some object, an inanimate object. Like if a building burns down or a business you have to close down, but we only associate death with the death of a person. We address death in those 3 days after. We take a casserole over and then we just try to get through the funeral. And then just like death happens, we come and we go. But we all need to think deeper about death. Most people fear their relationship with death and have an absolute fear of death. They don't want to take the mask off or go into the ego. The reason why they don't want to surrender is it could be telling them something meaningful, or it could have a message for them. It could be that big, unseen, unknown, curious piece about the other side. What happens after we die? Most people have an absolute fear of that. And until they see the signs that there's a new perspective, there's another way, fear will always be our lens. I had a client last week who shared, "My grandpa died, and everybody in the family says he came through to them, even my sister's son. When is he going to come through to me?" I replied, "He's there. He's never not been there like that. He doesn't die with the death. That connection is still alive. You have to know. You have to watch for the signs. Being able to get to the other side of death is where you find forgiveness, grace, and love." Many little deaths. Walking alongside Chuck to his death was one of the biggest journeys of my life. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd had the biggest collapse in my life. It was July 2015. 3 things happened during the first week of that month. This is 10 years after I got sober, and I had a digital platform called Women in Work Boots. It was used across Canada, and I received awards for it. The digital platform got hacked by male body enhancement ads, and that was firewalled from the 200 schools it was being used in. We had been using international students as nannies. I'd been a nanny myself in Italy and France during university, and I wanted that in my house. I wanted people who spoke Spanish so I could become more fluent. I wanted people who spoke French so I could remember all the French I knew. It was a great arrangement for our family. Then, after 8 girls, I said, I'm in the world of gender stigma stamping with this construction. Why don't we get a male nanny from the same agency with an early childhood education background? These guys had mountain bikes and hockey on their profile photos, and my 2 sons could shoot 10,000 pucks a day and still want more. Everyone would have a great time. We chose a nanny, and he was a great fit for a year. That was until we learned he'd been photographing me without my knowledge in the bathroom when I was changing in my bedroom. I caught him out at the house at the lake. I was getting out of the pool, and I saw a DSLR lens in the bottom corner of the window frame. I screamed and ran to the window, and all I saw was the extended shadow of someone running away. I couldn't tell if it was male or female, but I saw the shadow run away. Then I went upstairs to talk to Tyler about it. There were only the 2 of us and the male nanny on the 30-acre property out in the Shuswap. And then he came back with his camera. He said he was photographing the sunset and told me he hadn't taken any pictures of me. My third eye chakra started pulsing. When I had the thought, did he do it? It pulsed. And when it went away from the thought, could he be telling the truth? It stopped. I realized When I was thinking truth statements, it pulsed, and it did this throughout the night. In the morning, he confessed that it was him. He'd photographed me through the window. He was so sorry. He deleted everything, but we sent him home from there. We put him on a bus back to Calgary. My mom and brother packed up his room in Calgary, and a courier met him with his bags at the airport. I went to see a psychic after because I could not even be in my own house, and the psychic told me that we hadn't cleaned everything out of his bedroom. The reason I couldn't be in my house was because there was a shoebox with an external hard drive in it, which ended up having images of me from before that he'd taken in the house. I had to put to death this idea that this was a great experience, but I also had to put to death the idea that I was healed and everything was great on the other side. I wasn't. It was just starting. So after my digital platform had to be shut down because of hacking, we had to let go of our nanny for secretly filming me. Chuck was diagnosed with cancer. These three things in my life showed up of the death of an idea, the way I thought life was going, and the trajectory I thought I was on. The way I really wanted to get through it was to control, force fear, and project my ego to make everything okay. I had to step out of this place where we want to stay stuck and not deal with death and not deal with living death. I now share this new process of death like a death doula, where instead of helping people through birth, you help people through death. You walk with them because it's so scary. Eventually, you have to have the courage to shift and surrender what your ideas were, and then trust it's trying to teach you something. Because through connection, transformation, and leadership, we evolved to co-create with something else that we could find life in. In this, we change and transform and know the difference between being stuck in a place of fear versus being liberated and living in leadership and living in a powerful place where we're illuminated from within. When we illuminate from within, our life and death pieces are balanced. In my life, in my journals, and now in this book, I'm sharing many little and some significant deaths. Miss Baxter died. I had to die off a part of myself in addiction, and so on. If you choose to live in the cage, you're shutting down. This idea of being stuck in any aspect of your life is just staying in a fear-based place, like a living hell. Death is necessary. Nature is a great example and has all the seasons of death. Things kill each other off in the circle of life. In the hidden life of trees, the root systems connect, and if these trees feel another tree is bringing threat or disease or weakness to the group, they snip off the roots and kill them off at the source, which is what we do tribally with land, thus modeling patterns of nature. We don't have healthy soil unless we have death. Nothing in the forest regenerates without death, and we need to look at those patterns in ourselves with everything we're living in relationship with. Some of you might be going through it in your relationship, facing the idea the relationship has to die instead of the idea of carrying somebody until death do us part. Some of these man-made, antiquated ideas also have to die. Sometimes death is about the death of an addiction and the life that caused so much strife, pain, and suffering to those around. When my friend Bruce Oak died, I received the horrific call from the coroner in the middle of the night. I was told they called me before his parents. Bruce always wanted me to meet his mom, Anne, and when we did meet at Indigo Bookstore in Dalhousie, it was to discuss his passing. Bruce always said I was like her. He said I would like her, and I did. So much I didn't want her to see me cry, so I excused myself to the bathroom and I prayed for Bruce to give me a sign he knew I finally met her. When I got back to the table, she was crying. A book on the shelf behind her fell. It was titled Bruce. Anne said she felt a sign from him to let me know he knew I was there. Sadly, Anne passed a few years after Bruce, yet her dream of a treatment center in Winnipeg was born before she passed, the Bruce Oak Recovery Center. She had a dying dream, too, a women's center that's now the fundraising stage to one day become a reality. Sometimes death is about the death of a mindset, death of a hierarchical, patriarchal system created that we're told we have to be in, and instead it's about living in the new. My office is filled with plants that are all sprouting and living in water. There are ways to get new life, and it doesn't only have to be in soil. It doesn't only have to be in water either. As some plants are air plants, we can all find new ways to grow. Rebirth is in the breath. Death is in everything. Every religion has a death doctrine. Some spiritual beliefs also take the transfer of energy into account. Energy can't be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. I'm working to transform our habits of forcing toxic positivity on death, or the opposite response of fear and resistance, so that we all see it as a way of the world and surrender and shift and realize it's going to change us. Most of the time Jesus spoke to people, it was when he was leaving them with a question so they could reflect on the answer within, asking them to reflect on a death of sorts, death of an idea or mindset. In the breath after death, you feel a shift knowing that you're different and you're seeing things differently, that you see through death through the eyes of love and living. Death comes to help show us that we don't have to fear it. It's where logic and intuition meet. It keeps the pendulum swinging naturally. It's the toxic positivity of everything's great, love, 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 push through and focus on the positive things, versus I'm too scared, fear it, don't go there, shut down, and turn your back to it. Death just stays as this dark thing, but it's not. It's the life-giving dark thing, but we have to shine light on it, and we have to bring illumination from within to anything that appears dead.